Good evening, everyone. First of all, I must thank these who organized the Brockton Writers Series, such as Dorian, Emily, Hannah, and Nancy. Without them, this wouldn't be happening. I also appreciate everyone who is joining us here. Spinster Kang is my most recent publication. It's set in Toronto and Moscow. Kang's story is intertwined with the one of Tania, who turns out to be her father's first love during his study at Moscow State University. I read two things from this novel. The first part is about Kang and her lesbian roommate Nancy. On a Sunday in early April, Nancy invited Kang out for dinner at a restaurant. As soon as they walked in, a well-dressed waiter led them through the dimly lit entrance and then into a pitch-black room. Kang held Nancy's hand in the dark. He thought about the restaurant's peculiar name, "Au Noir." It reminded her of the Chinese saying, "You can't see your own fingers, even if you place your hand under your very nose." Nancy had explained that without sight, the other senses were intensified, and then the food would taste better. Carefully, Kang groped for her chair and sat down. The combination of darkness with background music made her feel as if she was sitting in a movie cinema. Someone came, and then a woman's voice explained what was in the dish that were being placed in front of them. Here are escargots in cherry tomatoes with garlic butter, marinated shrimps with herbs, and a basket of rolls. Then the steps retreated, her hand fumbling with a fork. Kang inhaled the steamy and delicious aroma from the dish in front of her. "What's an escargot?" she asked. "It's a French word, meaning snail in English," Nancy answered. "Interesting," Kang said, as her hands found an oval plate that felt warm to the touch and seemed to be heavy gouged porcelain. Her fork made a little tinkling sound when she touched the plate. She poked at something slippery, rubbery, but had trouble picking it up. "You can use your fingers," Nancy whispered in a voice just next to Kang's ear. He seemed to sense what Kang was doing. "Right, nobody can see me." Kang pinched one creamy, slippery snail with her fingers and dropped it into her mouth. "Yum!" Nancy exclaimed, biting into a tasty shrimp. I remember the first time I went out with my ex. It was a blind date, and we went into a restaurant. I got so nervous and couldn't stop babbling. The dim candlelight helped me relax. "Now, how are you feeling eating in the dark?" This reminded me of one evening when I was a schoolgirl doing my homework, when the electricity suddenly went off. Kang told Nancy how her brother and his friend used a skeleton to scare her and her sister, as well as the other kids in the neighborhood. When Kang finished her plate and felt around for the buns, Nancy pushed the basket near her. "Here's the bread." Surprised, Kang asked, "How did you know what I was looking for?" "I could sense it," Nancy said. "The escargots weren't enough to fill your stomach." "Right," Kang agreed, fingering the small indentations on the plate. There were only 8 snails. She found the butter and spread it on her roll. "Are you enjoying eating here with me?" Nancy asked as she bit into a bun. "Very much." This is my first experience eating snails. Kang spoke slowly and without light, but with a nice. Before she finished her sentence, she felt two hands gently holding her face, and then lips pressed softly against hers. The delicate fragrance told her it was Nancy. Kang was so shocked that she slipped off her seat onto the floor. God! She sat on the carpet and the table, completely disoriented by the kiss. The following part is about how schizophrenia is suspecting Brian. One day, Tania invited Kang and Brian to have a lunch with her. Over the lunch of a pasta salad and a grilled cheese sandwich, Kang asked Brian, "You didn't get enough sleep, did you?" "What gave it away?" Brian asked, his eyes flitting from Kang to his aunt. "Your bloodshot eyes," Kang said. "Don't worry, I'm okay." He hesitated. "I have a question for my aunt." "Go ahead," Tania said, and locked her eyes on his. "Did you ever think about going to China to locate Victor?" What a question! She sucked in air. "Yes, sometimes I did, but the sickness was never right." "How about now? China is open, and you have the time," said Brian before biting into a sandwich. "Well, I'm too old." "Why do you ask such questions?" Tania smiled wearily. "I guess the trip to Moscow sparked my imagination." She chuckled. "If I could find a time machine." "What did I say?" Brian asked, staring into space. "Sometimes my mind feels very hazy." "Your mind?" Tanya paused. "Can you pick up some flowers from the garden after the meal?" "Of course. Which one would you like?" he asked, taking a sip of Pepsi. "Pick some black-eyed Susan and the purple cornflowers." Brian finished his Pepsi, got a pair of scissors, and dutifully went out the side door. Tanya watched him from the kitchen window. Kang stood beside her. They watched Brian make his way along the path between the flower beds. Several startled sparrows rose from the shrubs as he passed, one of them almost hitting his head. He jumped and his arms swept in the air as though he were trying to catch it. He stepped past black-eyed Susan and then cornflowers. Finally, when he reached the end of the path, they saw him jump again, one hand clenching into a fist, the other holding the scissors. "My gosh, what's wrong with him?" Kang cried out. "He needs to see a doctor," Tanya said. Something's wrong." After they finished cleaning the kitchen, Brian had slipped into the room quietly. "Aren't they beautiful?" he asked, holding a vase filled with flowers of different colors. "What do you call this white one?" he asked. Eye wide open, Tanya looked at the flowers. "That's a dahlia. In fact, they are all dahlias." He tried to speak without panicking. "My dear, didn't you find black-eyed Susan or the purple cornflowers?" "You said yellow and purple. Plus I got some white ones." Brian sounded innocent. "Don't you like them?" "They're very nice, thank you." Tanya asked, "Where are my scissors?" "I washed them and put them into the drawer." "Have you had a checkup lately?" Tanya asked. "No." Do you think I should see the doctor because I'm flower illiterate?" Brian laughed.